Hello and a very warm welcome. This is New Dawn Nigeria, your weekend magazine program on Viewer Television. I am Chinon So Chakwas.
And of course, I am Phillips Livin. This is where you get first-hand and of course certified information about what's happening in Nigeria and beyond. On this platform, we give you nothing but the best. Now, as usual, we have packed up segments and of course interviews already for you. But before we get into that in-depthly, let's look at what's happening from few selected national dailies that we have all through the week. Coming up next. Now, as we promised earlier, we'll be looking at few selected national dailies that we have, and it will be starting from Monday. It will be starting from Monday all through to Friday. Now, remember, if any of those stories interest or intrigue you, you can drop by any vendor post, you get a copy, and of course, find out more about that, or rather, you can visit their e-platform. And of course, get more of those stories there. Now, as I said earlier, we'll be looking at Monday being the 23rd day of October 2023, whereby we'll be giving you the headline, and subsequently, if there is any update, we'll put you up to speed on that. Remember, this is still, of course, New Dawn coming to you from Viewer Television. Now, starting with, in no particular order, the newspaper leadership for Monday, the 23rd day of October 2023. And the leadership, the top story, their student loan scheme yet to take off. As also as anxiety as Supreme Court rules on Atiku's motion. That's on Monday. Despite subsidy removal, our revenue drops by 1.01 trillion naira in July. And moving forward to the next paper, which is the Nigerian Tribune, and still, of course, for Monday. And the top story there says exchange rate industries battle for survival as Nigerians suffer losses. And to the next paper, the Daily Trust. For Daily Trust, still for Monday, domestic foreign airlines disagree on multiple designations, where the domestic ones are hoping that the international flights, when they come, at least they should allow the domestic ones to distribute them rather than having different place of entry. That's for the international. And moving forward, the Guardian at 1,200 naira per dollar, 985 naira per liter. Fuel spike squeeze air travel prices. can't imagine what will happen by December. That and much from the Guardian newspaper for the 23rd day of October 2023. And for the next paper, we'll be having This Day newspaper. Still for the 23rd, Obasanjo, Nigeria can overcome forex crisis by exploring non-oil export. And we have the story of the Supreme Court benching, having the case of the tribunal. Also, Supreme Court bench depletes further as hearing in presidential Cuba appeals starts. That was for Monday. And finally, the Vanguard newspaper for Monday, the 23rd day of October. Anxiety as Tinubu Atiku Obi APM resume battle at Supreme Court. That is for the Vanguard for Monday, and that is all I can take for Monday. Maybe you help us with the one for Tuesday.
All right, so moving on to newspaper headlines for Tuesday, the 24th of October 2023, starting with the Leadership newspaper. Leadership newspaper says Supreme Court raises posers over Chicago Varsity documents, and it says reserves judgment in Atiku Obi's appeal, dismisses APM suit. That's for Leadership newspaper for Tuesday the 24th. And now moving on to Vanguard newspaper, still on the same date, Atiku's CSU evidence not admissible. This is Vanguard newspaper, says Atiku's CSU evidence not admissible. This is from Tinubu and APC and INEC. You can follow up that story on the Vanguard newspaper. It says subsidy removal, exchange rate unification. We've achieved desired objectives. That is coming from Tinubu. All right, so moving on to the Nigerian Tribune, still for that date. So the PNID case, excitement as Nigeria wins $11 billion UK court case. Now, we're following this case for years now. It says corrupt officials, private firms can no longer hold nations hostage. The judgment removes risk to Nigeria's assets abroad. And that's for the Nigerian Tribune. You can find more stories on the 24th of October. And now moving on to Daily Trust newspaper. It says the major story there, federal government automates forex transactions as Naira slumps to 1,220 Naira to a dollar. And then some international news there, Gaza war, obey international law, Western leaders tells Israel. So that's for Daily Trust newspaper. And then moving on to Punch. The Punch newspaper major headlines there says prove alleged forgery beyond reasonable doubt. Supreme Court tells Atiku. That is still on the matter of the Tinubu certificates. The court reserves judgment on OB LP's appeals and dismisses APM's case. And another story there before we move on. Flood sacks Ogun communities and government declares an emergency there. And that's for Punch newspaper. And then the final newspaper for the 24th of October, the New Telegraph. The major story there says still on the PNID case, UK court squashes $11 billion fine slammed on Nigerians. I think that's the developing story on that. And then the Federal Executive Council okays $5 billion humanitarian and poverty alleviation fund. You can find all the stories on the New Telegraph from the 24th and more, the 24th of October 2023. And that's all for the 24th of October.
And for the 25th being Wednesday, of course, we'll start with This Day newspaper, where it says tax reforms, federal government to streamline over 200 taxes levies to to single-digit number. Tax reforms, federal government to streamline over 200 taxes, levies to single-digit number. You find more of that story from the These Day newspaper for Wednesday, the 24th day of October 2023. Moving forward, the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, still for Wednesday, where we have UN Secretary General accuses Israel of violating international humanitarian law. That's regarding war on Gaza. How banditry forced Zamfara residents out of their homes. Get more of those stories from the Daily Trust for Wednesday, being the 24th day of October. And moving forward, the Nigerian Tribune. And the top story there says Senate justifies purchase of 160 million naira SUVs. That is for the Nigerian Tribune there. Senate justifies purchase of 160 million naira SUVs. Says Nigerians should examine lifestyle of ministers. Hopes 11.35 trillion naira spent on refineries maintenance since 2010. Excuse me. Sorry, the next paper is Vanguard. Vanguard, still for Wednesday, 24th day of 25th day of October. And the headline there says Nigeria needs $10 billion annually to fund SDGs. And that is coming from the federal government there. Nigeria needs $10 billion annually to fund SDGs. And the next paper, The Leadership. The Leadership still for Wednesday, the 25th day of October. Bielsa Kogi Imo, election materials not ready. That's 18 days to governorship polls. And subheading said INEC blames litigations, intra-party crisis. Also restore public trust in electoral system. That's according to IPAC there. And that's all for the Leadership. Up next, we'll be looking at the Punch. For the 25th day of October, we have Tinubu panel asks government to drop 190 taxes. OPS blames state. That's for multiple taxation. Tinubu panel asks government to drop 190 taxes. OPS blames states. That is for the Punch newspaper, and we'll be looking at Vanguard. Okay, I think that's about it for Wednesday, the 25th day of October 2023.
Alright, so moving on to 26th, which is a day anticipated by Nigerians, Judgement Day. This says this is Leadership newspaper. Let's begin with the Leadership newspaper. Say presidential appeals. The suspense as Supreme Court delivers judgment today. That's news making the headlines for Leadership newspaper for the 26th of October. And then let's take news from the Daily Trust. A Daily Trust, the major headline says Judgment Day for Tinubu, Atiku, and Obi as Supreme Court rules today. And the president says, I will win. And the ex-vice president says, I've made my case. And the Labour Party says, we're confident of our candidate's victory. And of course, security was beefed up at the Supreme Court complex for that day. Just to let you know, later on the show, we'll be having a legal practitioner to come give us his views on the judgment for Thursday later on the show. So moving on to Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune for the 26th, that the major stories, an 8-month battle over Tinubu's victory ends today as Supreme Court decides Atiku and Obi's appeal. That's for the Nigerian Tribune for the 26th of October. You can find more stories on that. Find the Nigerian Tribune. And let's move on to this day. This day, every newspaper taking this news, it says Tinubu, Atiku, Obi face judgment today. And of course, we're confident that judiciary won't fail Nigerians. This is coming from PDP and LP, making that declaration that the tribunal would not fail Nigerians. That is from this day newspaper for the 26th. And still on the 26th, Vanguard, still the presidential tussle. It says 7 Supreme Court justices will decide Tinubu, Atiku, and Obi's fate today. And it says 2 of 3 petitions that got to Supreme Court up for adjudication till today. And still on Vanguard for that day, it says Tinubu appoints 9 INEC recs. You can find that on the Vanguard newspaper for the 26th of October, and I think that's the last paper that we're taking for the 26th Vanguard newspaper.
Okay. For Friday, being the 27th day of October, it will be in no particular order. Looking at Vanguard first. The top headline says presidential tussle ends. Supreme Court affirms Tinubu's election, dismisses Atiku Obi's appeals. That is for Vanguard. We also have court orders federal government to Southeast governors to pay 8 billion naira. Apologize to Nnamdi Kanu. Oh wow. You'll find more of that story from the Vanguard for Friday. And moving forward, Daily Trust, where we have Supreme Court upholds Tinubu's election, dismisses Atiku Obi's appeals. We'll find more of that story. Let's build Nigeria together, and that's coming from the president. And Judgement disappointing. That's from PDP, and we are shocked, but we move on. That's from the Labour Party there. And for the next paper, we have Leadership Friday, where it's still talking about the victory of the president. Tinubu looks ahead, woos Atiku Obi. And the Apex Court has failed Nigerians. PDP laments, and Labour Party whips for judiciary. You find more of that from the Leadership for Friday. And the next paper is the Nigerian Tribune. Still talking about Tinubu's victory. Tinubu victorious, says Supreme Court did justice on merits of law. And this court dismisses Atiku Obi's appeal. You find more of that story from the Nigerian Tribune. And up next is the Punch newspaper. Still talking about the Supreme Court. Tinubu's triumph after 171-day battle. That story and more from the Punch also for today. And Nigeria's present wish list to president after Supreme Court victory, and the judgment shocking dash Nigerians expectations, says PDP Labour Party. Well, I think that's the size of what we have for Friday, being the 27th day of October 2020. As usual, just drop by any vendor close to get a copy and find more of that story there. Or it's just one click away from your phone or whatever device you're using, and get more of that story or any update regarding that. Well, we'll be looking at she really made mention of that earlier. We'll be looking at the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court's judgment, and looking at how it happened within a short period of time, unlike usual. But it usually takes a long period of time years before the case will be finalized. So we'll be looking at that angle. Also, we have a lawyer here in the studio to help us analyze more factors regarding that. And after that, we'll be looking at the safety of road users here in Guarimpa, and of course Abuja and Nigeria at large. So all you have to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy every bit of New Dawn. We'll be back after this break.
You're still watching New Dawn Nigeria on Viewer Television. Now, the Supreme Court has passed final judgment on the Election Petition Tribunal, affirming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the rightful winner of the February 25th presidential elections of 2023. Now, joining us now to give his views, give us analysis, and give us insights into an article he wrote on the judgments passed is Pius Dumba, a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Wow, thank you for having me.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so based on the article which you released, we're going to dive into it and see. Let's get a clearer picture of everything that you have said. Meanwhile, we'll be giving our viewers where they can find that article so that they can also read it. The article was titled "Supreme Court has saved us all from dark days of endless election litigation." So I'd like to know, is this in support of the quick judgment, or is there some undertone to this?
Well, it's actually in support of the judgment.
Okay.
Yes, because if you look at the time frame within which the appeal was heard and then determined, it was quite fast.
Yeah.
And that is what we have been advocating for in the determination of cases in Nigeria, especially election matters.
Okay.
Yes, so it was with less than 7 days between when it was heard, when the arguments were taken, and when judgment was delivered. I think the arguments were on a Monday, and then by Thursday they were already delivering judgment. So basically it was you are looking at just 3 days period between when the appeal was heard and argued and then when the Supreme Court delivered its judgment. So I think that is fantastic, it's commendable. We have moved away from the era when you see that a case will last in court for so many years, you know, and it will not be determined, such that, in fact, we have had situations when in this country someone can win the case in court, but you discover that the tenure has elapsed.
Oh.
You know, by the time that the court will be determining whether the person was properly elected or not, the tenure have elapsed. So the victory in court becomes just academic. You cannot make use of it because the tenure you are supposed to enjoy has elapsed.
So we just have that on record.
Judgment.
Yeah.
But don't you think it's not about the time, it's about getting the facts right?
Well, you see, time is very, very crucial in election case because we are looking at the tenure of office. So there is no way you can discuss or you can look at election matters without tying it to the issue of time. And the advocacy that preceded the current law we have is much more than the the dissent or the views we are having now. As at then, what we're having in Nigeria was a very bad situation because you can, once someone is declared by INEC, the person can keep litigating in court. Things that are supposed to be done within 2-3 days, lawyers, litigants will keep delaying the matter in court, taking adjournments, taking extension of times, deploying all manner of technical wits or arguments in court just to frustrate the fast delivery of justice. And so matters will linger in court for so many years, and then by the time you succeed and you cross all those hurdles, you discover that maybe you just have a month to the end of the tenure. In fact, there are cases that the judgment came out after the tenure has already elapsed.
And on that note, sorry, let me ask a question on that.
Yeah.
In a case where judgment is passed after a tenure has elapsed, affirming or confirming someone who has been a petitioner who has been in court fighting for this case, is there any law that nullifies the probably past 4 years that the wrongfully elected person has been there?
There is nothing that can be done, So that is why the issue of time became the central focus of our election law. And so the advocacy was done by both international community, civil societies, human rights advocates, lawyers, media organizations, and different stakeholders that look, we have to ensure that we put in our laws a strict timeline for anything that has to do with election case, such that no one is permitted to breach the strict prescription of this timeline. And that is what has happened in the case we have seen, because the decision of the Supreme Court is that anything that you are expected to do in an election matter, you must do it within the strict timeline provided. You can't, the time cannot be extended even by a minute. And that is why for lawyers who are practicing or who are involved in election matters, that there is no weekends, there is no holiday, there is no night, there is no day in election matters.
Working around
yes, we work all around the clock. You see lawyers filing election matters in the middle of the night. I have filed election matters at 11:55 p.m. So that I don't get to the next day and be cut off. So the strict timelines provided in our election laws cannot be extended no matter what the excuse. And the overall interest is that we don't want to go back to that era when time is allowed to be extended, and in the guise of extending time for doing this or doing that, you end up spending the entire tenure out in court without the person that will win at the end of the day enjoying the fruit of his litigation after he must have won.
Okay, so is there a constitutional amendment right now in effect to the timeline of litigation?
The timeline for determination of election cases is strictly provided by Section 285 of the Constitution. So the time you have to file petition, 21 days, no one can extend it, and all that you want to complain about must be stated in your petition within 21 days. And the situation at hand is that now the allegation around the forgery of the Chicago State University diploma was never part of the petition. Okay, so it was long after the time have passed long after the case has even been adjourned for judgment, that the petitioner started to venture into that issue by looking for evidence that will show that the certificate was forged. So there was no way that can come in again, because the law is strict that time for doing things in election matters cannot be extended.
So in your
because
view,
if you look at it on the other way around, if you extend time for the petitioner and say, okay, well, you are allowed to now bring in additional evidence or fresh evidence outside the time you are permitted to do so, don't you think the respondent will also ask for additional time to also respond? By the time he does that, the other person will say, oh, this person has brought something new again, I also need to respond, and it will keep going without end. And it is because there must be an end to litigation. That is why the law says, look, we are going to fix this time. If you have anything at all that you want to do, it must be accommodated within the time given to you. If you cannot do it, then that is it. And you can see that all the parties are agreed with these timelines, and that is why even the petition was filed within the 21 days. Otherwise, someone can just come and say, oh, after 40 days or even after 100 days, he can come and say, okay, look, I've just discovered something very, very fundamental, something very, very constitutional, that this person is not supposed to be the president. So can you allow me to file it? I need extension of time. So it is to avoid situations like this that, look, there must be an end to litigation, and then the person that has been declared winner must be allowed to, govern.
Run with the time.
Not to be distracted with litigations flying left, right, and center.
Yeah. So in your view right now, saying that getting the evidence from the Chicago State University was somewhat beyond the control of the confines of Nigeria,
yes,
right? And was justice really served annulling or not picking those things as evidence?
You see, I gave an example with writing a WAEC examination. There is a timetable for that. When you go in and you write your maybe English examination or maths examination for WAEC, and you are done, that is it. The only thing you wait for is result. You cannot come after 2 weeks or 3 weeks and call WAEC and say, wait, I just discovered something very important that I should have written in my script. Let me add it. Even if you forgot, you have the knowledge, but while at that examination hall, if you forget to write it, there is no way it can come in again. It's just something like that. So you cannot say that, well, if I had remembered, I would have written more and then I would have passed the examination. So once at that moment that is given to you, you are unable to bring forth all that is expected of you to pass that examination, you are done.
So there's no window to add.
There is no window. It's just like, can WAEC ever give you a chance to go back to the examination hall if you recall something to add to your script? They will not. As simple as writing examination. Then this one you're talking about, the governance of the whole country, Nigeria, which is much more sensitive.
Is it that the Constitution does not provide for fresh evidence,
there
or there are
no
circumstances where fresh evidences can be taken?
See,
because those are two different things here.
Now, if the allegation that the certificate was forged is part of the petition, it was filed within the 21 days. They made it a ground of complaint and said that, look, we have evidence from Chicago State University that this diploma was forged, and we are going to call staff of Chicago University to show that this certificate was forged. If that allegation was made, for instance, within the 21 days, and then they make attempt to bring down to Nigeria staff from Chicago University and will be able to, because of the difficulties involved in bringing them down, that may create a room for them to bring it subsequently when eventually they succeed in getting them down here. Because from the beginning you have made it clear that it's part of your case and that you are going to be relying upon it. However, maybe due to circumstances that have happened outside Nigeria beyond your control, you're unable to secure their attendance. In such situations, the court may readily allow you to bring in fresh evidence because it's part of your case from the beginning. It is due to no fault of your own that you are unable to bring that evidence within the time of hearing. You see, what you have to understand is that there are separate timelines fixed for every activity in an election matter. The time to file is 21 days. The time to bring all your evidence until judgment is given is 180 days. So once you say that this complaint of mine, I am going to bring evidence for it, all those heads of complaints must be made part of your petition within 21 days. Then the next step you are going to be complying with, or the next timeline, is to ensure that those evidence are brought to the tribunal within 180 days. You know, so, and what the Supreme Court is saying is that once this 180 days expires, we cannot take in any fresh evidence.
Okay.
So even assuming we agree with you that the allegation that the diploma certificate was forged is part of your petition, the 180 days for taking of evidence is even over. So no new evidence can come in again.
So talking about this 180 days now and timing,
Yes.
Even in your article you stated that the US judicial system delayed, right? In, you know, we know all the drama that was. So that was not enough to say that, okay, we can move our timing, we can shift our timing here.
You know, the argument before the Supreme Court is not just about delay from the US courts, but that what did the petitioners do the moment they become aware that these certificates are alleged to be forged? You know, you cannot just sit down and do nothing and wait for the last minute, or wait until you are out of time, then you begin to look for the evidence. Now, if you look at what is presented before the court, the particulars of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu were published since 2022, a year ahead of the election. The particulars were published. You have seen that he has presented this diploma 1 year ago. The witness you brought to court has even taken him to court 1 year ago but did not succeed. So you cannot claim that it is just now that you are becoming aware that he forged the certificate. Therefore, you want to seek for new evidence to show that he is not qualified, or to show that he forged the certificate. So you went to sleep for 1 full year, then waited until you are out of time, you are out of the 180 days given to you to present evidence. Then you now rush to United States of America to start looking for evidence that will show that the diploma certificate is forged. So can you really blame the judicial system in US for not releasing the documents to you in time? You cannot. You equally cannot blame Nigerian judicial system for saying that you are out of time. Because if you are taking these measures as far back as 2022, you will have gotten this evidence long before the filing of your petition.
They were so certain they were going to win. So,
and you will have made it part of your case. You know, and I say that the moment, you know, the judges are also human beings. They also reason, you know, and the judgment cannot be contrary to common sense and human reasoning. Now, if as a human being, someone comes to you and say, look, I want to bring fresh evidence because the one I have before you is not enough to prove my case. That tells you automatically that if the fresh evidence doesn't come in, then he has no case. Because if you have a case, if you have evidence, there was no point looking for fresh evidence. So the moment the court decided that the fresh evidence cannot come in because they are out of time, I knew that the case is over. So because every reasonable judge knows that the moment you allege before him that, look, I want to bring in fresh evidence so that I can prove my case, The only conclusion is that what you already have before the court does not establish your case.
Yeah. So this still falls down to the petitioners doing their job well.
Exactly. So you see, contesting election in Nigeria is not easy. Doing election matters is equally not easy. It's a very difficult task, that requires a whole lot of work, and it requires a whole lot of effort. It requires resources. It requires experts. All step of the way. It's not something that is supposed to be easily successful. If it's going to be that easily successful, then most politicians will just not put much effort in the election. They will just wait to go to court so that they can secure an easy victory in court. The election petitions are not supposed to succeed all the time. Because
when you say succeed, what do you mean by succeed?
What I mean by succeeding is that the courts are determining or are making declarations of who won the election.
By law, success either way goes.
By law, it is INEC that is supposed to declare the results of the election. They conduct the election, they make the declarations, not the courts. So if the court is going to make a declaration other than what INEC does, it should be in rare cases where the evidence conclusively show that what INEC did is not correct. And that is one of the main take-homes in this judgment, that look, if you allege that, for instance, on the issue of IREF, if you say that the IREF failed, how does that affect the numbers? It's very crucial, because election or democracy is a game of number. People come out to vote, and then INEC collates the vote and make a declaration. Now, we have ballot papers, we have the result sheets in different forms, okay, or in different copies. It's just like when you are issuing a receipt to somebody, there is carbon copy under. And that is how the election results are. The moment you conduct the election, the first set of records are the ballot papers. The next set of records are the result sheets written at the polling unit, and they come with copies behind them. These copies are given to political party agents nominated all over the country. And then copies are equally given to security agents, that is the police, before they are now uploaded on the IREF. You have to understand the process. The process is that election will be manually conducted and concluded before the results are uploaded on IREF.
But in this case, is the IREF not the only place where the public can see?
No,
the public don't have access to these other copies given to agents.
IREF is not the only means that the public can access the result, because there is a result form that they usually paste on the polling unit. For every polling unit that election is conducted, INEC, after declaring the result, giving copies to party agents and the police, they write the result of that unit in a big result poster, and paste it in the unit. In fact, the electoral law makes provision for individuals to even snap copies of those results, at that polling unit level, for the purpose of comparison in case they are going to be changed later. So there are different copies of the results that the law has made provision for in different forms, so that if one is missing or destroyed or tampered with, you can use the other one as evidence to generate the correct result and show to the court that what was declared has been tampered with. And so that is the reasoning of the Supreme Court, that look, if the IREF has failed, show us how the figures are affected. The figures are not affected in any way. That one set of results is destroyed because, for instance, the copies given to the police can maybe get lost on the way, or the copies given to the political party agents may be snatched and burned down. Okay? Now, the fact that that has happened does not mean that there are no other versions of the result that shows who actually won the election. And so that is what the Supreme Court said. Yeah, agreed that IREF did not work efficiently, and that has diminished confidence in the process. But how has that affected the actual result of the election? If you cannot show, because the law is that you must show that the irregularity or non-compliance have substantially affected the result of the election for it to be nullified. If you cannot show the effect, you can show the non-compliance. Now, where is the effect, or what is the effect? If you can't show the effect, then the court cannot tamper with the results declared by INEC.
I think the argument for citizens now, where we're not legal, the argument for citizens is that with technological advancements, we're sitting here in Abuja, I cannot see the polling unit in Lagos or in some place in Surulere, for instance. So technological advancement was what was promised, right? That it would be transparent for all to see. But we're running out of time now. So in your final analysis and decision, what's your final take on this decision that has been made by the Supreme Court?
Well, you see, the country or our democracy is one that is still growing. There is still room for development in terms of both our electoral processes and as well as our election laws. Now, we have advanced, or we have made substantial progress, and there is room for more to be done. So when we look at all that we are not satisfied with respect to this election, then it is left for us now to begin to hold our leaders accountable, especially the lawmakers, because that is where we need to focus at the moment, in the governance, in the lawmaking, so that whatever we desire as a nation should be reflected in our laws, so that when there is another election, we will be able to hold the institutions to account or to operate within the provisions of the law as we want it. We cannot, just go back to sleep and say, well, this one is lost, and so nothing can be done. The way forward is to now pick the lessons from this judgment and what has transpired, and then begin to advocate for new laws that will make the system more transparent and more credible. For instance, if it is the decision of Nigerians through their elected representatives that the law be made, for a collation of results to be done electronically online to the view of everyone, then of course that will have to be implemented. But until that is done, we'll have to make do with what we have at the moment.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Pius Dampa, for coming on and giving us your views and analysis. And congratulations are in order to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for winning in the appeal of the case. You're still watching New Dawn, Nigeria. There's more still to come right after the break. Hello and thanks for staying with us. You're still watching New Dawn Nigeria on Viewer Television. Now still in the spirit of making our roads safer for road users in Gwarimpa and in Abuja at large. Joining us right now live in the studio to create some driver sensitization to see that you are driving safer and you are moving to your destinations safer and in good time is CRC Chukuma Ikbega. He is the new unit commander for the FRSC Gwarimpa Unit Command. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Again, sir.
Thank you.
it's a pleasure having you at such a time. like this. Yes. So let's go straight into the conversation. You have just assumed duty. This is 2 weeks right now.
No, a week.
Oh, it's just a week. It's just a week. You have just assumed duties just a week into your assumption of duty as the unit commander here in the Gwarimpa unit. How has that been?
It has been a wonderful experience being around Gwarimpa and being around people in Gwarimpa.
Okay. We have been welcoming.
Thank you.
Well, have we been nice?
Yeah,
Gwarimpa residents,
nice,
have we been
nice? Yeah.
all right? So,
Very, very
how,
nice.
okay. How would you assess generally the road usage character, if I can say that, of Gwarimpa residents, Gwarimpa drivers?
Wow. If we talk about the residents of Gwarimpa and the people who use the road, I think there are in two different categories. We have the exposed road users, people who trek, people who ride. We have the keke drivers, riders, and we have the people who have maximum protection, like the people who are using vehicles, and you have the other people who are using articulated vehicles. But the ones that are a big problem are the keke.
So that's where the challenge is.
Yeah, these are the challenges. Most of them practically doesn't know what road safety education is all about. So on assumption of office, I have made contact with their chairman. I had a meeting with them yesterday, and I proposed to him to have a free training workshop for them and probably find a way of getting them licensed so that we know who drives and who uses the keke in Gwarimpa.
Okay, because in one of the questions I was going to let's jump the gun now was what to do about tricycle drivers, because a lot of times you see underage people driving. You just see small boys in the tricycle, and sometimes we feel like the road safety are only concerned about car drivers and not this people. But is glad to hear that that is in consideration and that is in the pipeline. So let me ask, what is the unit generally now doing about what initiatives, or what is the unit doing about seeing that the road users in Gwarimpa are safer?
Okay, what I intend doing is to, first of all, start the way we just started, by enlightenment. After enlightenment, find a way of having a seminar, free teaching, free, lectures for most of the drivers. And after that, subtle, arrest. Subsequently, full force arrest for any defaulter. Because I've started by getting to be your friends, telling you what to do, how to do them, and subtle arrest. Before that, I'll go into full force arrest.
Okay.
Like, this is war now.
Yeah, this is because we're talking lives now, so this is really really war.
Okay, now recently there was a sensitization work that the unit organized, and I learned it was very successful. I wanted to understand if there are more of that in stock for the Gwarimpa people for us to expect.
Definitely, there's going to be more, but we want to concentrate now on the Ember month to make sure that the road is safe. And after that, after the whole exercise of Ember month, that comes with a lot of challenges. Like today, before we came on air, we were just discussing about, I've had over 4 calls about lone accidents. You just be driving and you crash. You run into you just 2 around this Gwarimpa today.
Only today?
Yeah, only today. So I will be making plan of how to remove one, and one is still on the road. So we are making arrangement to remove the other one. So I am advising people in this particular environment that most people are losing their mind, are losing their thoughts. So as you're driving, if you know you're not in a very good state of mind to drive, use the public transport. If you know you can't drive that day, or somebody provoked you, or you have any provocation from anywhere, if your mindset is not set for that kind of, because driving is a very serious thing to do. So if your mind is not set to drive, just leave driving for that day.
Are your personnel on the road, are they equipped? Do they have the capacity to know that a driver is not in the right mental state to be driving? Do they have, because so that more than just looking out for your papers and all when your car is stopped, do they have those kind of trainings?
As a matter of fact, we have this officer psychology and driver psychology. What it means that when you're talking to a driver, you should read his state of mind and know. Sometimes that's why you see people who delay some drivers so that they will calm down and place them in a better state of mind before you can continue your movement.
Okay, so that's already in.
And even in our
That's already
headquarters, we
checked.
have a counseling unit.
For drivers
Yes,
or for
we have a counseling
personnel?
unit. They can cancel driver and cancel anybody,
Okay.
even our personnel.
Is that for free?
It's for free.
Oh.
So how do people go there? Do I is it after your assessment that you send drivers there?
Wait until I arrest you.
I'm not going to be found wanting on the road for bad road
That was
usage.
why I asked whether it's free.
Whether it's free, so that
Recently in Abuja, there is this case that has gone viral. That's the case of the one chance. Now, I would like to understand what the road safety is doing. I know it's a police case, but is there any moves that of course, road safety corps is doing in order to assist the police to make sure that this situation doesn't continue in Abuja? Precisely the fact that the Ember month is here, and that's when usually this thing will skyrocket.
Okay, thank you for the question. We have been having a collaboration patrol with the police since I assumed the office.
Okay.
So what we do is that while police stop to search for those one chance perpetrators, we try to make the road safe and free and make sure that traffic flows, so that at the same time there won't be traffic congestion on the highway while they are conducting their search. Yeah, today we had one with them, and there's been a good synergy between the police and other security agencies in Gwarimpa. We've been really working very, very well.
Okay.
So have we been able to, have there been some arrests or anything to that effect?
Yeah, there have been some arrests, but although it's been handled by the police.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's almost a regular thing, everyday thing. Like yesterday, around 8 a.m., somebody was just robbed in front of Galadima, those one chance drivers.
8 a.m.
8 a.m. in the morning.
So there's no particular time of when that could possibly happen.
It used to be in the night, but it's now all the whole time of the day.
All the time. Oh. All right, so we're hoping that initiative and that plan brings the whole one chance syndicate thing to the barest minimum,
Yes,
possibly eradicated totally.
Yes, and still on that note, I don't know if there are any tips that you give the general public regarding that. That's what to look out. We know it will be hard for you to just look at a car and just decide it's one chance. Your instinct might say, but I don't know if there are things that maybe the core observed that is noticeable that the public can notice and stay away from such cars.
Okay, most of them, the plate number, you see Nigeria plate number front. The back of the plate number, it will be a foreign plate number. Yes, so, and if you are not careful, you will just enter innocently because you've seen the plate number in front. So we are advising before you board any vehicle, check the plate number in front and the one at the back, whether it tallies. If it doesn't tally, there are most likely syndicates of one chance.
Okay.
So people are advised to, even when you board the car, check whether the handle, the opener is broken. Also peep and look behind the boot, whether there's somebody behind the boot, because most times there's always one person in the boot. So from there it can start choking you from behind. So we should just be mindful when boarding any taxi.
Okay. Yeah, so still since you're the unit commander for Gwarimpa, this is a concern for road users in Gwarimpa. We know that most of the roads in Gwarimpa are tarred and all that, but there's one thing we noticed on Gwarimpa roads is potholes. So I don't know if that is within the purview of the road safety to maybe point to either, I don't know if it is AMAC or who now, because what now happens, because what happens is that we now see tricycle drivers, car drivers that keep trying to move into the next lane, trying to dodge this pothole, trying to dodge that pothole. Is it within, because since that also affects the safety of drivers on the road?
Okay, I made arrangements on how to get those pothole filled, and just yesterday, I was told that FEMA is doing something about it, that they start filling from this other side of from your office side towards the but I've not been able to get in touch with any FEMA authority person to know, but then there's a personal thing I'm doing to make sure that the potholes are filled.
Because I've seen them before, but the whole question here is whether it's the whole Gwarimpa or only a section, or is it going to be bit by bit?
Okay, charity begins at home. I want to start in front of my office.
So at least when we pass in front of road safety, you know, okay, the road in front of road safety the road in front of road safety is clear. All right, now on a before we get to the final note, let's begin to wind down. What has been, since this is you've been sensitizing, you've taken the walk, have you been able to see any positive progress to see that, okay, this walk we're doing, okay, road crashes already has been reduced? Have you been feeling the impact of the awareness you've been creating?
Yes, the one I've seen is overloading and use of seat belts. The moment they sight you, they will start, adjusting. The moment especially wearing Paris, as soon as they are driving past a road, nobody will know. You would have been told. They'll start adjusting, wear seat belt, ask the other person, come down, you're overloaded. People are really getting used to that. If you are the extra passenger, the moment you meet road safety, you are in for a trouble.
It's funny how we put seat belts for road safety.
When we see exactly that's
officers instead of putting it for ourselves.
I hope that we get to the point where people know that these seat belts are for us, and we shouldn't put it because you're trying to run away from being fined for defaulting on.
Maybe one day we'll talk about seat belts, how it should be used, and when it should be used.
Because the question we've asked one time is we're concerned about seatbelt for driver and the passenger in front, but still on overloading. When you have 4 people sitting at the back, people at the back don't use seatbelts. Why? Are they immune to crashes at the back, or do we feel they are more protected?
Nobody is immune.
That we don't enforce those at the back seats to wear seatbelts.
No, nobody is immune from crash. When it happens, anybody could be involved. But then there should be a starting point. Let's start from the front before we go to the back.
All right. Any more questions? All right. Now, so lastly, before we let you go, can you just give Gwarinpa users and all road users who are watching us right now, of course, safety guidelines and tips? Let's keep enforcing these things until we become the best of drivers on the road.
Gwarinpa road users, like I always say, if you must drink anything, if you must drink alcohol, don't drive. If you must drive and drink water. Don't overspeed. Use your lane very well. Don't use phone while driving. It could lead to a crash. Somebody can send you a message that could make your mind to flip and you lose control. So if you're driving, don't use your phone. I want to plead with the Gwarinpa road users to cooperate with me, and I'm going to give you maximum cooperation to make sure that any broken down vehicle around Gwarinpa will be removed right on time so that the road will be free for road users to ply.
All right, thank you so much for coming on. CRC Chukuma Ikega is the unit commander, FRSC Gwarinpa unit commander, and we'll keep doing this until every road user in Gwarinpa becomes the best driver in town. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you around. You're still watching New Dawn Nigeria. We'll be back with more right after the break. Do stay with us. And that's about the size of what we can take this morning on New Dawn Nigeria. We hope that this has been an insightful and entertaining program for you this morning. Thank you for sticking with us right till the end. And from me, Chinonso, is wishing you a wonderful weekend.
And my name is Phillips Leven. This is where, of course, I would say safety is paramount. So try as much as possible to be on the right side of life. Well, have a very, very lovely day from our angle, and of course the rest of the production team. Do have a great day.